How's it going, everybody? My name is Lucky Buns, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my top 40 tips and tricks for Pokemon Go in 2024. Now, this guide is mainly aimed towards new and returning players coming back to the game, but there's also probably a few things you might even learn as a veteran player, so keep that in mind as well. That being said, though, let's jump straight into it. So the first thing that we're going to talk about are going to be these showcases. These were introduced in 2023, and it was honestly, in my opinion, the only feature that was actually good from that year. Now, the main Pokemon that you want to focus on saving for these showcases are going to be the XXL Pokemon, or XXL. Now, you can also search for these in the search bar, so it actually makes it really easy. You can get rewards such as lure modules, TMs, lucky eggs, and even star pieces if you end up placing first or second in these showcases. So once again, 2023 gave us showcases, and I strongly recommend doing them going into 2024. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is going to be a bunch of catching strategies, and I think these are really important to talk about, especially if you're coming back into the game. Most of you guys probably already know about the fast catch trick at this point. It's like 6 years old, but if you don't know how to use this trick, then it should be the first thing that you learn how to do this year to improve your gameplay. I'm probably going to say this a lot in this video, but I do have guides on many of the concepts I'm going to be talking about, so make sure to check the description for any videos referenced, as well as in the top right hand corner, but I can only link up to 5 of those, so most of the videos will be linked down below. Now, normally it will take about 20 seconds to catch a Pokemon with the full animation, right, the full catching animation. But with this trick, you can get it down to 3 to 4 seconds. Alright, now the next thing that we're going to talk about is actually pretty new to the game, and that's going to be the guaranteed critical catch trick. This was a recent addition into the game about maybe a month or two ago at this point, and it will work on every single Pokemon except legendary Pokemon, and unfortunately that does include the Galarian birds. It's essentially a skill-based technique where you have to land the smallest possible excellent throw, but if you do, it'll guarantee that you're going to catch that Pokemon 100% of the time. In my opinion, this was such an amazing addition to the game, and I really wish that it did work on the legendary Pokemon, but unfortunately Niantic just felt like that was too OP. Now, following that, we have one more catching technique to go over, and that's going to be the circle lock method. This technique is fantastic for new players who are struggling to catch legendary Pokemon, or just in general, any players who are struggling to catch legendary Pokemon, but it is a patience game. So you essentially want to hold down on the Pokeball to set the circle in place, whether that be nice, great, or excellent throw range, and then you want to throw during the attack animation of a Pokemon, timing it so that right when the circle reappears, the ball makes contact, preventing it from actually attacking you. It takes some time to get used to, but it's such a great technique to know. Like, literally, this is one of the best ways to get used to excellent throws if you're actually new to the game. As you guys get more experienced in Pokemon Go, you can start using the freehand technique to get your excellent throws, which is personally what I do. But in my opinion, the circle lock method is going to keep you set for a very long time. Now, with the catching techniques out of the way, let's talk about how to actually get charged TMs in-game. This is such a common question that I get asked on the channel, so I feel like it's worth talking about. Now, the first way that I recommend getting charged TMs is from the Win 2 reward in Go Battle League. So basically, when you win 2 battles out of the 5 in your set, you're going to have a chance to roll a charged TM or a fast TM, sometimes even rare candy. It's really good to at least get 2 out of 5. I'd recommend 3 out of 5. That way you can actually get the encounter reward as well, but we're talking about charged TMs here. Now, the next way is actually even more consistent than that, but you have to do raid battles, and not everybody can do raid battles all the time. So the reason I recommend this is because for Mega and 3-star raid battles, you're going to get a guaranteed charged TM every time you beat them. Now, for some of you guys wondering out there, why do I need charged TMs, right? Well, with the ever-growing list of moves added into Pokemon Go, especially for certain Pokemon, you're going to need a lot of these. Sometimes it gets so frustrating that people even consider using elite charged TMs to get the move that they want. I would not recommend that. We're going to talk about that here in a second, but I would not recommend that. Now, this especially holds true if you guys are going to get into PvP, or maybe you're starting to get into PvP. You're going to need a lot of these. Not to mention, for Team Go Rocket Takeover events to TM frustration off your Shadow Pokemon, you're going to need a lot of Charge TMs there as well. Charge TMs are going to be a huge commodity in Pokemon Go. You're almost never going to have enough of these things. On the topic though, we should probably talk about Elite TMs as well and how to actually get them. So Elite TMs can actually help you get legacy movesets that are no longer available in Pokemon Go, except through the use of Elite TMs. Now, there are actually a few moves in-game where even if you use Elite TMs, you won't be able to get access to that moveset, but for the most part, these do give you access to a lot of the legacy movesets in-game. So, many of the best Pokemon in-game will require Elite TMs to get their signature movesets or Calm Day movesets. A great example of this would be Reshiram with Fusion Flare or Metagross with Meteor Mash. Reshiram with Fusion Flare is a raid exclusive moveset, and it's also the signature moveset for Reshiram. Now, Metagross with Meteor Mash was a Community Day exclusive moveset, but sometimes during events, we do get get the ability to actually TM our Metagross to get Meteor Mash, or even evolve them from a Tang into Metagross to get Meteor Mash as well. Now with that being said, we know that Elite TMs are good, but how can you actually get Elite TMs? And even better, how can you get Elite TMs for free? So you guys can get Elite TMs for free from GBL each season, so do not sleep on your battles, because you can get 1 Elite Fast TM and 1 Elite Charge TM just for hitting rank 20 each season alone. Now for those of you guys who don't know, hitting rank 20 is actually really attainable because it is purely win-based. It doesn't matter how many times you lose, as long as you get the right number of wins, you're going to be able to hit rank 20 and get those free Elite TMs. Seriously, I recommend doing that every single GBL season. We've had up to 17 seasons so far, so that's like 17 free Elite TMs just like that. But wait, there's more. So you guys can also get 1 more of each TM if you win 500 battles each season for the timed research. This is a lot of work, but it's not impossible. You just need to be consistent. Now we also get GBL days and GBL weekends, which usually have timed research as well, which also award Elite TMs. I've gotten a few Elite Charge TMs just from doing the research during these weekends. Now finally, the last way to get Elite TMs is going to be a pay-to-play model, and that's going to be from the Com Day boxes, which sometimes feature them. But typically these cost a lot of PokeCoins, like we're talking like 1,300, 1,500 PokeCoins just to get one single Elite TM. Now I just gave you guys a ton of free ways to get Elite TMs in game, so you don't have to spend 1,500 PokeCoins each time. I would recommend doing those opposed to buying them from the Com Day boxes. But hey, if you got a bunch of money and you don't care about spending it, then you can do that too. We definitely spent a lot more time on Elite TMs than I thought we would, but let's move on over to our next tip, which is going to be to catch Stardust boosted Pokemon. Did you guys know that there's actually 24 Pokemon that will give you boosted Stardust when catching them? Yeah, it's pretty crazy, right? Now normally when you catch a Pokemon, you only get 100 Stardust per catch. If it's weather boosted, you get a little bit more. And if you have a star piece on, that's a 1.5 times multiplier on top of all of that. But just for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna go over the base Stardust amount, and if you guys want to do the math and add in the multipliers for weather boost as well as a star piece, you can do that as well. So let's go ahead and start off with our Pokemon that have a 500 Stardust base catch rate. Those are going to be Paris, Meowth, Shroomish, Foongus, Morlul, and Delibird. Now for their evolved forms, for example like Parasect or Persian, they're going to give you 200 Stardust more. But this isn't actually anything new. For example, if you caught a Charmander, that would be 100 Stardust, and then if you caught a Charmeleon, that would be 300 Stardust, a Charizard would be 500 Stardust. So like I mentioned, this basically applies to any other Pokemon as well in their evolved states. It just goes up by 200 Stardust each time. Moving on over to our second tier Pokemon, these ones are going to have a base Stardust catch of 750. Pretty crazy. These Pokemon are going to be Combee, Alolan Meowth, Trubbish, Staryu, and Sableye. Now all those Pokemon do have evolved forms except for Sableye. Now we do have one more tier, and that is going to be the 1000 Stardust Pokemon. We only have 2 in this category, and that is going to be Shelder and Chimecho. Both Pokemon are going to give you a boatload of Stardust. But we actually do have one more bonus Pokemon, and that is going to be Audino, which gives you 2100 Stardust per catch. Audino also has a ridiculously stupid catch rate, so make sure that if you're going to catch an Audino, use a Golden Raspberry, otherwise there's a good chance it's going to run away from you. So whenever you guys see these Pokemon in the wild, or maybe just featured during a specific event, make sure that you prioritize them. It is going to help you accumulate so much Stardust. Like just during Foongus Spotlight Hour alone, I was able to get over 600,000 Stardust, and there were some people who even cleared 1,000,000 Stardust just during that 1 hour. Now speaking of boosted Pokemon, let's talk about perma-boosted shiny Pokemon. So these Pokemon will have an increased shiny odds of 1 out of 64. Now normally the shiny rate or shiny odds are going to be 1 out of 500 on a Pokemon. This doesn't include Pokemon caught from raid battles though, this is just Pokemon caught in the wild. While we're on the topic though, let's also talk about Com Day shiny odds. So the odds for these Pokemon during the event is going to be 1 out of 25. That is probably the best shiny odds you're going to get in the entire game. Now for those of you guys a little bit unfamiliar with Com Days, these are held once a month and will offer a wide range of bonuses on top of the shiny odds. You can expect bonuses like 3 times catch experience, 3 times catch Stardust, or even 1/4 incubator distance, and they're going to last for 3 hours long, so it's a great time to go out and grind. Now we do actually have a few more events that will give you boosted shiny odds as well, so let's talk about those too. So raid days are going to be the next one, and raid days and I guess even hatch days, we'll talk about hatch days here in a second, but these are relatively new in terms of the boosted shiny odds. It wasn't always the case, but essentially when you participate in these raid days, you have a chance of getting that shiny at a boosted odds of 1 out of 10, which is pretty damn good if I do say so myself. But it is important to remember that even though these are going to be the shiny odds, it's still RNG at the end of the day. Now for those of you guys a little bit unfamiliar with what RNG is, it stands for random number generator, and it's essentially like rolling a dice. Like let's say for example it's a dice with 10 sides, right? the one side of the dice has the shiny that you want. But just because you roll it 10 times, it doesn't mean that you're going to get that shiny guaranteed on the 10th time. It's just the average. So you can easily go under or over odds. It is completely random. Now we also have hatch days, which I feel like I should go over. So these are kind of like raid days and comm days where you're going to get 2-kilometer eggs that have a chance of rolling that respective Pokemon that's featured at a shiny rate of 1 out of 10. In the past year, we actually had Riolu Hatch Day, which was super awesome. Historically, Riolu has been locked behind eggs for a very long time, so it was a really nice change of pace to actually see them put an event out like this. I don't know if we're going to get more events like this during this year, but it's definitely worth paying attention to if we do. Literally any other time that we have an egg hatching event, it is almost always a scam. Like, the rates are just horrendously low. So I would not recommend any other egg hatching event just for any newer returning players watching this right now. It's not worth it. Do not spend your money on incubators, trust me. The only time to do that would be during hatch days like this where they have 2-kilometer eggs and the shiny rate is 1 out of 10. Next up, let's talk about spotlight hours. So these are going to be similar to comm days. They feature a specific Pokemon with a special bonus, but instead of 3 hours long, they only last 1 hour long. And the bonuses can be any of these 5: 2 times catch Stardust, 2 times catch experience, 2 times catch candy, 2 times transfer candy, and 2 times evolve experience. Typically during comm days, we have a 3 times bonus, so for the ones where we get 2 times catch Stardust or maybe 2 times catch experience, it's typically better to not use your lucky eggs or star pieces during the spotlight hours unless it's a Stardust boosted Pokemon, and rather just use them during the comm days. Now I usually cover every single upcoming spotlight hour in my monthly breakdown video, so if you guys have not subscribed to the channel and hit that bell notification yet, I would strongly recommend doing so. That way you guys stay updated on all the upcoming events and which ones you should be paying attention to. Next up, let's go over some tips for raid battles. So one really big thing that got added into Pokemon Go recently was Campfire, and you can use this to locate nearby raids and also coordinate with people. There's a small little map icon on the Pokemon Go app, and you can just boot up Campfire from that, and then you can use that map to scout out all the gyms around you. Now, like I mentioned, as somebody who doesn't live near that much, like being able to scout out a bunch of raid battles, which are probably like at least 8 to 10 minutes out from where I live, is a huge help, because in the past I would have to drive to these locations, and if there wasn't any active raids, then I just wasted my time and my gas. It really sucked. But because Campfire is now in the game, I can just use this to scout out all the raid battles I want to. And if there's nothing there, well, I'll just wait maybe like an hour or two and then check again. And if there's raid battles now, then I can drive on over and get some raids done. Now, there's also going to be another part of Campfire that I personally haven't used myself, but you can also use it to communicate for local raid battles and join nearby groups. If you guys have any experience using this portion of Campfire, I would love to hear about it in the comment section down below, since I don't personally have that much experience myself. Now, on top of using Campfire to scout out for raids, well, that doesn't really solve your problem if you can't actually get a group together, right? Well, this is where Genie comes in. This has been a godsend for raid support. Now, let's say, for example, I go out to the park and I want to do a legendary raid battle, but I don't have the support to do so. Well, if I go through Genie, I can actually invite players to help me take it down. And there's usually a minimum damage requirement if the raid boss is super tough. For example, something like Latias or Kyogre, or I'm trying to think what else. Defense Deoxys is a really big tank, so that Pokemon for sure. Now, I feel like I should mention this as well, that sometimes queues in Genie can be a really long time. So in that scenario, yeah, like it's not going to always work out, but in comparison to just not having any support whatsoever, it's a huge help. As a free-to-play player and somebody who doesn't really live near that much, Genie plus Campfire have been a huge help for me, so I do strongly recommend using them. Next up, let's talk about Mega Evolutions and why you want to do them every couple of days, essentially during your cooldown period. So getting to Mega Level 3 on your Pokemon is one of the best things you guys can actually do in-game, and there are going to be over 30 Pokemon that can Mega Evolve in Pokemon Go currently. So what I would do is I would recommend creating a search tag all of them, and now you want to go through this every 3 to 5 days depending on your average cooldown period. Now, for those of you wondering why you don't have a cooldown period on all of your Mega Pokemon, well, that's because you have to Mega Evolve them at least once. It's going to take you between at least 1 to 2 raids to get the initial energy to Mega Evolve them, but it's going to reduce the cost by 80% after you do it that first time. Not to mention, you can also speed up the process to get to Mega Level 3 if you collect more energy from the Mega Raids, and then you can just Mega Evolve them every day to make progress on your Pokemon. The cost to evolve them also gets cheaper as you continue to move up the tier. So for example, at Mega Level 1 it's going to take you 7 days for the cooldown period, at Mega Level 2 it's going to be 5 days, and then at Mega Level 3 it's only going to take you 3 days for the cooldown period. Now, like I mentioned, you don't have to wait for the cooldown period if you want to Mega Evolve your Pokemon, you just need to have the energy available, which again, you get from doing the raid battles. Now, after you Mega Evolve them for the first time, you can also walk them as your buddy to get energy that way. Next up, we got a big one, guys, lucky Pokemon. So these are going to be some of the best Pokemon you can get in the game, and I'm not just saying that because my name is also Lucky. So you can get these lucky Pokemon from one of 3 ways. The first way is by trading random Pokemon with a friend, and there is a small chance that that Pokemon will go lucky. Now, I feel like I should have probably mentioned this already, but lucky Pokemon are going to be Pokemon that cost half the Stardust to power them up. So it's a huge investment saver. Like, I'm not even kidding. I have saved so much Stardust. Circling back though, what are the other 2 ways to get lucky Pokemon in game? So the second way is to get them through guaranteed lucky friend trades. Pretty much how this works is that there's going to be a small chance that you guys can actually get lucky friends with one of your best friends by interacting with them at least once a day. Now, if you do get lucky friends, that means that your next trade is going to be a guaranteed lucky trade. So I would recommend trading something rare with your friend, like a legendary, a shiny, or even a shiny legendary. That would be awesome, right? Now, finally, there is actually a third way to get lucky Pokemon, which is also going to be guaranteed, but this only works if one of you has gotten a combined total of less than 25 lucky trades. So for example, I'm trading with a friend who hasn't played much since 2017. If I trade him a Pokemon from 2023 and they trade me a Pokemon from 2017, if they've gotten under 25 lucky Pokemon since then, which most likely is the case, that trade will be a guaranteed lucky trade. So this is actually a huge help for newer players coming back into the game and also veteran players. It's like a win-win scenario. Community Days also started in 2018, so many of those 2018 Pokemon that will be eligible could also be shiny. So again, like, it's a huge win-win for anybody who wants to go through and get their 25 guaranteed lucky trades. Like, make sure that you use them on really good Pokemon. Now, one more thing I forgot to mention is that lucky Pokemon have a minimum IV floor of 12, 12, 12. Which essentially means you're guaranteed to get a good IV Pokemon every single time you do one of these trades. Now, for those of you guys who have watched my videos for a long time, you know that IVs don't actually matter that much. We've talked about this so much on this channel. If you guys wanted more further in-depth explanation, I do have other videos that go over this more, but I'm not going to spend too much time on this here. So for example, Mewtwo has a base attack stat of 300. Now, if you had 15 attack IV, that would add to that 300. So instead of 300, it would be 315. So if we take a look at an Espeon, for example, or even a Gardevoir, like, the attack stat is so much lower, which means it's not even going to compare to Mewtwo, even if it had like 15, 15, 15 across the board. Now, don't get me wrong, IVs definitely matter in Pokemon Go, but for the majority of the player base, they really don't matter all that much. Now, on the topic of good IVs though, there are actually some really important Pokemon that you do want to focus on, and these are going to be the same Pokemon that you ideally want to be putting your rare candy into. So, rare candy, what exactly is it? You guys can get rare candy from raid battles, you guys can get rare candy from GBL battles, the win 2 reward, or the win 3 reward, the win 4 reward gives you 3 guaranteed, and then sometimes you get a random chance of getting rare candy from that win 2 reward as well. There's a bunch of other ways to get rare candy from like research quests and stuff like that, but essentially it's a pretty difficult resource to get in game. And I feel like a lot of players use this really recklessly. Like, I'm not even saying that as an understatement. I have seen some awful investments when it comes down to rare candy. So typically, what should you use your rare candy on? Well, ideally meta-relevant legendary Pokemon, because that is the hardest Pokemon to get candy on in the game. The reason for that is because normally you can walk a Pokemon and get candy that way, right? Well, for legendary Pokemon, if you walk them, it takes 20 kilometers to get 1 candy. Whereas, for example, if you walked a Gyarados, it only takes 1 kilometer to get a Magikarp candy. Big difference, right? And then it goes up in increments like 3 kilometers and 5 kilometers, and then it jumps to 20 kilometers for legendary Pokemon. So obviously, you know, I don't want to walk legendary Pokemon, I'd rather just use rare candy because that makes more sense. Now, for those of you who want a full detailed list on the best Pokemon to put your rare candy into, I'm going to recommend checking out this video right here, which goes over 25 amazing Pokemon that are worthy of this resource. Next up, let's talk about GBL and farming Stardust. Man, this is going to be a good one. So you guys get 5 sets per day, which is a total of 25 battles per day. Now, we're mainly just going to focus on these sets per day though. So one of the best ways to get Stardust in the entire game is from GBL, Go Battle League, specifically tanking using the 1-4 strategy after you hit rank 20. So once you get to rank 20, then you can start getting the max amount of Stardust for the win rewards, or technically that's more like ace rank, but rank 20 is the second highest. It's like 30 Stardust lower if you guys aren't able to get to ace rank, because that's actually kind of difficult to do. That requires an ELO of at least 2,000. But rank 20, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, can strictly be done by just the number of wins that you get. So if you want to check out how to actually utilize this in the best way possible, I'm going to recommend another video in the description down below, or maybe I already recommended this. It's going to be in the description down below either way. This will actually help you get to rank 20 as soon as possible, and then start using the tanking strategy to get a boatload of Stardust every single season in GBL. I would not be surprised if Niantic nerfs this method in the future, because it is seriously so OP for grinding Stardust. So take advantage of it while you still can. Next up, let's talk about opening and sending your daily gifts. Now I'm going to go over the order that I do it in, but you guys can prioritize it however you want to, depending on what your goals are. So personally for me, I want to get lucky friends as much as possible. So I try to interact with the best friends that are local. Now after that, I want to interact with trainers that I'm going to be building friendship with for great, ultra, and best friends. Now if you guys actually need friend codes, I'm going to leave a link in the description down below to the Pokemon Go Friends subreddit page. It is such a good place to get a bunch of friend codes from just tons of random people all around the world. Honestly, I would add as many people as you possibly can from your local community, and then if you just don't have that many people in your local community, add as many people as you can from this subreddit page. Fill up your friends list, get a bunch of experience, get a bunch of gifts on the daily, and make sure that you're opening the max amount every single day. You're gonna get tons of free items. It is seriously such a great way to farm resources in Pokemon Go. Stardust, Pokeballs, berries, tons of good stuff. Now, of course, that is just opening your daily gifts. What about sending your daily gifts? You guys can actually send a total of 100 gifts per day. That is going to be the limit that you can get from Pokestops. Now, if you can, I would recommend doing this every single day, but I understand not that many people actually will go out and spend a bunch of Pokestops to send gifts. That's okay because you actually get 5 randomly if you don't have any gifts in your inventory. So pretty much as soon as you get gifts from your buddy Pokemon, send those gifts out to the players that need it, and then wait a couple of hours, and then typically you'll get some more gifts and then just send them out. Repeat the process as many times as you can during the day, and this is really going to help you build up friendships so much faster. And you're going to need a total of 176 million to hit the max level in this game, and while that may seem like a lot, it's actually pretty attainable over time. I have been free to play since the start of this game, and I have over 200 million experience. So if you guys are worried that you can't actually do it, trust me, you can. You just have to put in the work. Next up, let's talk about the daily adventure incense. This is going to be a 15-minute incense that's given to you every single day in Pokemon Go that pretty much promotes going on walks, or at least like short walks, right? This is also the only known way to get Galarian legendary birds in the game, and while they're not actually used for that many things in Pokemon Go right now, just the rarity of getting them is such a big deal, not to mention they have a terribly low catch rate, so even if you encounter one, the odds of you catching it are pretty slim, especially since you can't use the guaranteed critical catch trick. That's a bit unfortunate. That being said though, the daily adventure incense is good for a number of reasons. The number one reason being you're going on walks. Like a lot of us are probably sitting down all the time for work or maybe just for school or whatever. Now there is actually a correct way of actually getting the most amount of spawns from doing these daily adventure incense, and you essentially want to walk in a straight line. Now, if you walk in a straight line at like brisk pace, you're going to be able to get a spawn every 30 seconds from the incense for a total of 30 spawns in that 15 minutes, which is pretty good if I do say so myself. So by getting a total of 30 spawns every single time you use a daily adventure incense, you strongly increase your chances of encountering a Galarian bird. I can't guarantee you're going to catch that Galarian bird, but at least you have a stronger chance of running into one. Now, I do also want to mention a bonus tip for those of you guys who maybe just struggle to get Pokeballs in game. If you don't have any Pokeballs in your inventory and you use a daily adventure incense, you're going to get 30 Pokeballs automatically. That's pretty cool, right? The next tip that I'm going to go over is to interact with your buddy daily, and you guys can actually do this with up to 20 Pokemon per day. Now, I don't recommend doing up to 20 Pokemon per day unless you just know every single Pokemon that's going to benefit from that best buddy boost. Now, speaking of consistent things to do every single day, let's talk about battling Team Go Rocket grunts at Pokestops and also from the balloons. By doing these battles, they're going to award you Shadow Pokemon, which have a 20% boost to their attack, but also receive a 20% reduction to their defense. The trade-off is definitely worth it though. When compared to their regular counterparts, these Shadow Pokemon are going to be significantly stronger in the raid/gym meta, but for PvP this does tend to vary, so that's on a Pokemon per Pokemon basis. Basically, in short, just make sure that you guys are doing your Team Go Rocket battles as often as possible. There is so much more to talk about when it comes down to these Pokemon, but again, we'll save that for a later video. The next tip that I have for you guys is going to be kind of a controversial one, and that's going to be to buy an Autocatcher. So these have become pretty normalized in Pokemon Go. The latest Pokemon Go Plus can even actually catch using Great and Ultra Balls now, which is pretty cool. It can also auto-catch using regular Pokeballs as well, but most of the third-party auto-catchers have already had this feature applicable in their versions, and I'm waiting until the third-party auto-catchers actually get the automatic Great Ball and Ultra Ball catching. That's going to be incredible. But yeah, when it comes down to third-party auto-catchers, there's brands like Dual Catchmon, Gotcha Evolve, which are also pretty good. Now, personally speaking, I'm a big fan of the Dual Catchmon. I love that you can actually hook up 2 devices on their one auto-catcher, opposed to all the other brands you can only hook up 1 device per auto-catcher, which is totally fine. But it definitely makes a Dual Catchmon stand out a little bit more. Now, unfortunately, the downside to this is that they don't really like me for some reason. I actually reached out to them to collaborate, but they ended up just blocking my messages for some reason, so I thought that was really odd. Now, whatever issues they have with me or my content, I don't know what to say about that, but they still make a really good product, so I'm still going to recommend them if you guys do want to get an Autocatcher that is a third-party one. Otherwise, I would just go with the Pokemon Go++. Now, in general, though, Autocatchers are pretty awesome for whenever you guys are going to be driving from point A to point B, or maybe you're just sitting down somewhere for a really long time. The main appeal to the Autocatchers is definitely the passive gains you get over time. Otherwise, it's probably just better just to freehand your throws. The next thing that we're going to talk about is going to be to drop in gyms regularly. Now, I'm not saying you have to do this every single day, but when you can, try and drop some Pokemon in gyms. Now, as of right now, this is the only way to get free-to-play PokeCoins in the game, and the way that you actually earn PokeCoins has gotten a little bit complicated, but basically, if you stay in a gym for over 8 hours and 20 minutes, that will get you your daily 50. That being said, though, the only way to actually get your coins is if your Pokemon gets kicked out, and you can only get a max amount of 50 per day. So for example, if I had a Pokemon that was in a gym for 3 days and then it just got kicked out, I would only get 50 coins for that day that it was kicked out, not for the 3 days that I actually held in it. Kinda sucks, but that's pretty much the way that it works. And for those of you wondering, I really doubt Niantic is going to change that in the future. This has pretty much been their model for like the last 6 years. While we're talking about gyms though, let's talk about feeding berries to Pokemon in gyms, and yes, you can actually do this remotely. So once you drop a Pokemon in a gym, you can feed it berries remotely, as well as all the other surrounding Pokemon too. So many people will delete their berries for space, but this is a much better alternative. Like, please don't transfer your berries, guys. Drop them in Pokemon that are in gyms. It's so much better, and you actually get Stardust for it. Not to mention, you also have a chance of getting candy plus extra large candy from feeding berries as well, so it's another win-win. Now, there is actually a limit on how many berries you can feed every 30 minutes, so you can only feed 10 berries per Pokemon for a total of 10 Pokemon every 30 minutes. I know that kind of sounded confusing, but it's a total of 100 berries fed every 30 minutes, and that's pretty much going to be the limit. While we're on the topic of maximizing everything, I feel like this is one really important tip that isn't really that much of a tip, it's more just a general rule that I feel like you guys should follow, and that's going to be to catch everything. Like, literally everything that you guys see, catch it. If you have the Pokeballs, obviously. But the best way to accumulate Stardust in this game is by catching everything. Like, I would even argue one of the best ways to get experience in the game is by aiming for excellent throws on everything that you go for. Now, the reason I say this is because a lot of times people will just shiny check and move on, but they leave a lot of Stardust and experience on the table by doing that. Now, if you guys already have like 10 million Stardust and 176 million experience, then okay, fine. Shiny checking isn't that terrible if that's what your goal is. But for most players, under level 40 especially, you should be catching everything for the Stardust and for the experience. We're coming towards the end of this video, but I still got some more things I want to go over. The next thing is going to be useful search string. So we got a couple of good ones here that I'm going to leave you guys with. So the first one is going to be the age 0. You guys can also do like age 0 to 7, age 0 to 28, or age 0 to 365. That'll be for a week, a month, and a year respectively to show how many Pokemon that were caught during that time frame. One of the more commonly known practices for using this search string is to show how many Pokemon you either caught during an event, or maybe how many shiny Pokemon you got during an event. Like, you can do combination strings as well, so it can be like age 0 and a shiny, and then it'll show all the Pokemon you caught during that day. Our next search string is going to be for 0% IV Pokemon. You want to type in 0 attack and 0 defense and 0 HP. That'll pull up all of your 0% IV Pokemon. Now for 100% IV Pokemon, this one is much easier. Just type in 4 and then star, boom, all your hundos pop up, really easy. Now there is also one more that I want to go over. This one isn't one that I personally use that much, but I found it really helpful. That's going to be for PvP IVs, like general PvP IVs. You want to type in age 0-7 for a week, and then you want to type in and 1 attack and 3-4 defense and 3-4 HP. Now this should pull up all of your Pokemon that are going to have pretty good PvP IVs with low attack and high defense and high stamina. It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn close. If anybody has any suggestions on how that can be altered to further encapsulate, better IV Pokemon for PvP, let me know in the comment section down below. That was just the best one that I found. Now one more tip I want to go over when it comes down to the search strings is how to actually save them so you don't have to type this out every single time. So basically you want to go over and once you type in that search string, exit out of it, then long press over it in the recent section, and then long press over it again once it's saved into your favorite section, and now you can actually rename it so you can pretty much quick search anything. Now I have 2 more tips I'm going to go over in this video. The first one is going to be for new or returning players specifically. For those of you guys that are just getting back into the game, you might feel left behind, and if that's the case, even after watching this video, I strongly recommend checking out my starter pack playlist on the channel for more content. There are so many helpful guides and tutorials in there that I've cultivated and just worked really hard on to help you guys learn more about Pokemon Go and how you can actually embrace improve your gameplay. Now, you guys don't have to use my code if you don't want to, but if at any point you take a break from Pokemon Go for longer than 90 days, you can always find my referral code in my description down below. And seriously, it's a great way to get rewards. It's a win-win for both of us. And yeah, not to mention, it's also the easiest way to get onto my friends list in the game. So yeah, if you guys have ever wanted to be friends with me in Pokemon Go and you ever take a break from the game, boom, right there. Now, our final tip for the video is going to be to have fun. I know it sounds super generic, but I always like to include this one. The most important aspect of this game is having fun. Don't ever feel obligated to attend or play every single event. Most of these Pokemon will eventually come back into rotation. The FOMO aspect of this game can be quite crazy, but I really try to ignore that sense of urgency as much as possible. Like, at the end of the day, I just want to have fun and enjoy the game, hang out with my friends. Like, that's the main appeal here. Anyways though, with that being said, that's basically everything that I have for you guys in this video. If you still want to check out some more content, I'm going to recommend these two videos right here. But before you go, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all real soon in the next one.